Dallas a couple of weeks ago, getting the first win in a month and a half. Will do that. The winningest coach in MLS history, 2 previous MLS Cups to his resume. Caleb Porter on the other side has undergone the second best single season turnaround of a team in MLS history. He, of course, has experience at the college level, won a national title in 2010, and he was very fired up when we met with him last night for this match. Baldomero Toledo, 10 years in the league, 2 MLS Cup finals he's been in charge of. This is his first Portland-Seattle match. And a lot of this is the all-time series. This is the 83rd meeting dating back to 1975 across all manner of leagues and levels. It's the 4th time these sides have met in the playoffs, including the first ever playoff game for both the Sounders and the Timbers in 1975. 40 years it's been building. 180 minutes. The next chapter will be written as this Western Conference semifinal first leg is underway. Seattle Sounders in Rave Green, Portland Timbers in the Rose City Red. We expected rain that did not come. The wind has died down as Ryan Johnson chases over the top. Marcus Hahnemann, who's in for the suspended Michael Sperning, picks it up. Again, Brian Dunseth, the football lines on the field, does that affect the players at all?
Not so much the wide players. The reference point is just making sure that they're staying in bounds. For a defender, I think it's going to cause a little bit of havoc early. Just making sure they're always recognizing where they are in reference points to the top of the 18-yard box.
Shrewsbury trying to drop that in for Chara. Broken up by John Kennedy Hurtado. Eddie Johnson, who scored in both games against Portland here in this building this year. For Leo Gonzalez, who passed a late fitness test. He's been bugged by a hip injury of late. Adam Moffat, the former Timber, edged out of it and knocking down Darlington Nagbe for set piece of the game. Well, we talked to Timbers captain Will Johnson last night at the team hotel. He said this is the type of series that can be decided on a set piece in any one of the 180 minutes. He said we have to be switched on the entire time. And it'll be Johnson, who had a career high in goals and assists in the regular season, to send this in. Heavy artillery forward for Portland. Hahnemann tracking. He's got the catch. Michael Sperning, just the second goalkeeper in MLS history to be shown a red card in a playoff game. And so as a result, Hahnemann starting his first playoff game here in Seattle since 1996, when he helped the A-League Sounders win the title that season before the next year starting in the MLS championship game, MLS Cup, with the Colorado Rapids. Nagel off the foot of Dempsey. Clearance only as far as Brad Evans. A shot to deflection just wide. And out for a corner. Play in full and international duty. And Maxi Urruti, their new Argentine forward, still unavailable with a hamstring issue.
Well, the one thing Ryan Johnson gives is obvious size, strength, athleticism. But he also has that work where he's doing the little things often. So anytime very, very dangerous.
Harrington and Nagel battling for that. Seattle throw. Again, he's deputized. Yedlin suffered that sprained ankle Wednesday night of the knockout round match against Colorado. Scott, who's been living this rivalry for more than a decade, fires in the long throw. It was Footy who got his head to it, looping over, and out for Seattle's second corner early. Zach Scott tonight playing in match 279 of his Seattle Sounders career, dating back to 2002.
Well, and it might play into Seattle's favor just a little bit. You know, this diamond formation is still a little bit fresh. So know that DeAndre Yedlin getting up and down that right-hand side. Zach Scott's going to tactically give you just a little bit more. He's not going to this little.
Driven in, away by Will Johnson. Run it, chop up, play. Rory playing safe direct. Harrington's clearance blocked in, has work to do. Able to recover, though, only as far as all the way. Valeri playing over for Walrus there. Header. Johnson get around Dewsbury's race with Chara. I'm off. It takes the deflection. Evans right to Ricketts.
Leo Gonzalez off it, and Brad Evans side. The touch comes off Lamar Nagel and comes back Ravin. But again, that freedom of interchanging in this new formation has allowed Seattle to be that much more dynamic, while at the same time giving them stability and not getting hit on the break the way they were in the last couple of games of the season.
Johnson trying to play for Wallace, just able to control in front of Scott. Now Diego Valeri, league's leader in assists in a regular season. Nagbe had Wallace making the run, was trying to play across. Leo Gonzalez blocked the pass. Dempsey playing that ball quickly forward, footing in a foot race with Lamar Nagel. Nagel fronts the defender, trying to curl that shot, not enough.
A very good decision by Footy, taking away that near post. Do not hesitate. Lamar Nagel, he's been very good this goals, 4 assists throughout the course of the MLS season, but he's had some big chances as of late, and he hasn't been able to punish opponents. I think this is a big series for Nagel.
Valeri on the end of Ryan Johnson's flick. The ball for Wallace a bit too far. And Hahnemann, not for the first time, will play long. Cause header. Ryan Johnson. Almost got back to him. Alonso could work from the seat of his pants. Scott pressured by Wallace, knocked away. Referee will give Portland the throw. And Zach Scott staying down. Sounders without their right back right now as Zach Scott remains down. He's off the field. The shot from distance is pulled wide. Will Johnson taking the effort. And this is a concern against Scott starting in the place of DeAndre Yedlin. Failed the late fitness test after spraining his ankle Wednesday. And the longtime Seattle Sounder is going to require treatment.
Well, he went down awkwardly in the challenge with Rodney Wallace. And again, there's that idea of defending through for the Portland Timbers. Immediately trying to apply the pressure, force the defenders facing backwards. And Wallace, as Scott gets the touch caught underneath him, just comes up and you don't see any contact whatsoever. But again, just so many options for Seattle. If they need to, the obvious assessment would be Brad Evans could slide back. You could bring in a Mauro Rosales, a Shaw Reed Joseph, and Andy. So many options for Ziggy Schmidt.
Tackled there by Cobb. On see Scott back just for the interim. Eddie Johnson keeps it in play. Nagel on the turn. Had Moffat Chara. Zach Scott, his first touch. He's there. They'll set up for the long throw. The other Johnson will. A free kick Seattle.
Well, Seattle's been very effective north to south, getting forward as quickly as possible, but we really haven't seen them keep the ball on the ground, that short, sharp field. Portland Timbers yesterday talking about the idea getting in front of them. In Seattle against Colorado in the play-in game, they saw Seattle time and time again going up and over the top. Colorado favorite keeper. Today, they wanted to keep the game in front of them, limit the amount of time, and in particular, could get in behind their back four.
Clint Dempsey taking with, once again, Mauro Rosales, their all-time leader in assists, on the bench for Seattle. And everyone behind the ball for Portland. Dempsey's driven ball in. Header awkwardly from Traore, it looked like. Hurtado was also in there, comfortably in the end of the hands of Donovan Ricketts. League's leader in shutouts this season.
Well, it's such a dangerous ball because it's hit with pace and the ball's curling away from Donovan Ricketts right at the corner of the 6-yard box. And Jimmy Traore just gets on top of Footy at the last second. Can't get ahead to it. Really just looks to bring it down with his body.
Zach's there to element under pressure from Rodney Wallace. Jack Jewsbury, time and space to run forward. His first playoff game since 2008 with Kansas City. Finds Nagbe. Again, Jewsbury. Valeri poked away from behind. Traore defending.
You notice time and time again that every single time one of the center backs pulls wide, Ozzie Alonso drops in and looks to just cover that hole. Difficult tonight for the Seattle Sounders center backs and Jimmy Traore and Anthony Hurtado to emphasize his strength, but making sure they're aware of that secondary run where Diego Valeri, Darlington Nagbe in particular are at all times.
Dempsey going to be whistled for the foul there on Diego Chara. Taken quickly, but about 5 yards further upfield. Dempsey, who suffered the separated left shoulder in the match in Portland last month. It was Chara's tackle that led to that, and he was very upset, Dempsey, that Chara did not receive a yellow card nor than any other Timber for what he felt was very persistent infringement. Chara, Dewsbury bombing forward up the right. Goals to the byline. The cross, the flick, header, the goal! Ryan Johnson and the Timbers lead in Seattle for the first time in any game since 2007.
It's an outlet ball to the right-hand side, and Jack Jewsbury gets up from his right back position, settles, hesitates, hesitate. Both Jimmy Traore and John Kennedy Hurtado lose the mark of Ryan Johnson just inside the near post at the top of the 6th. And that is a huge, huge goal on the road for the Portland Timbers.
First ever playoff goal for Ryan Johnson. Just the second time he's been in the postseason in his 7 years in MLS. And I was just about to ask you, Brian, Caleb Porter told us last night he wanted to jump on Seattle early. He wanted to press them, wanted to squeeze them, wanted to push it back. It didn't necessarily look like that, but here we are, Portland 1, Seattle 0.
Well, I would say that buildup was more about a diamond formation playing central. If you're describing a Seattle Sounders team over the last couple of years, you're talking about Zach Awani, Mowers that usually track those wide outside back delayed runs that we just saw from Jack Jewsbury. And I think for the Seattle Sounders, while this formation
Chara pokes it away. Ryan Johnson on the ball, feeling confident. Johnson letting it fly. Hahnemann able to swallow it up.
Well, the framework of the 4-4-2 keeps everyone a little bit more central. And Diego Chara, perfectly weighted ball for Jewsbury. But watch the hesitation. Hesitates just enough. And that allows Ryan Johnson to get on the inside of two center backs. Little glance, great goal.
Nagel on the turn, the shot is wide. Timbers appealing for a handball on Lamar Nagel that's not given. Trying for the quick response.
Better turn, Nagel. Bringing it right arm, no call on the referee right. Caleb Porter, not that foul as Footy. Danzo just comes at Eddie Johnson, doesn't allow Eddie Johnson space.
Harrington back to Etho. Harrington by Nagel, and he got contact there with the kick seal right on the edge.
Conversation with Pot and that man, Eddie Johnson. He's been consistent for the opening 19-20 minutes of this match. Set piece opportunity just outside the top of the 18-yard box. You got to think this is Clint Dempsey territory.
One of three Seattle players over at Evans and Moffitt the others. Moffitt joining the wall now. Trying to perhaps wedge open an opening. Evans will now get away. Dempsey, tipped over by Ricketts.
Well, Donovan Ricketts, a huge reason why the Portland Timbers have had so much success this year. 14 shutouts. That is a huge, huge save right there, pulling that out of the upper left corner.
Already Seattle's third corner kick in the opening 20 minutes. Dempsey away by Will Johnson.
And again, the Portland Timbers committing every field player back into their own defensive third.
Harrington wins the header over Evans. Wallace trying to control. Now Valeri. Valeri charging forward. Seattle emphasizing trying to cut off his passing lanes, and it's too far for Chara.
He wasn't looking for Chara that run. He was actually looking for Michael Harrington to peel his run inside and kind of curl around. That is a brilliant ball from Diego Valeri. If Michael Harrington stays on that run and just tucks inside to his right a little bit, he's in uncontested.
Johnson offside.
Well, Eddie Johnson gets caught leaning on the wrong side of the back line, but that's the space that Eddie Johnson is so good at peeling off. He's so active and so fluid, dipping inside with one shoulder and then looking to peel off the outside left shoulder of the center back and into that space that's usually vacated by a left back.
Johnson told us yesterday, this is as big as it gets. You can leave your mark in matches like this. That's a man who should know from big matches. Wallace and Scott cancel each other out. Traore had to react. Johnson blocking the attempted clearance. Again, Jack Jewsbury, time and space out wide. Valeri back from Nagbe. Blocked down by Alonso. It pings around. Traore was put off balance. Going to be a foul on Ronnie Wallace. Wallace scored a big goal for Portland in this building back in March. 90th minute equalizer in the first meeting between the teams. Both of his goals for Portland against Seattle. Late equalizers, including last fall to get the Timbers a 1-1 draw at home. Ryan Johnson brings that down very well, trying to play for Wallace. He'll get there in time. Combines with Johnson. Wallace for Nagbe to chase. Shoulder to shoulder with Traore. Referee says goal kick. Major League Soccer on the NBC Sports Network is being brought to you by the Volkswagen Passat. That's the power of German engineering. And by Allstate. Protection is our game. Are you in good hands? Valeri with his head up, playing long. Ryan Johnson had Wallace running in behind. He collides there with Hurtado. Scott reacting and slices it out for a Portland throw. Nagbe was popping up on that left side. Harrington. Nagbe and Alonso. Nagbe falls down. No foul. Most fouled player in MLS this year, not that time. Eddie Johnson quickly the other way for Seattle. Able to keep it on Will Johnson. Adam Moffat chugging forward. Moffat, cross, blocked. Fourth corner kick of the match for Seattle.
Well, Seattle doing a very, very good job between Clint Dempsey and Eddie Johnson. When they get that ball released into the midfield third, quickly turning, looking to get into space, and allowing Evans and Moffitt to be that release valve out just a little bit wide.
Dempsey again to take the first time tonight. He can swing it in, though, from this near flag. And it's driven right in front of us. Chara getting his head to it. Smallest man on the field. Helped away by Jewsbury. Gonzalez knocking it back in, and it slides all the way through. Ricketts this year, league leader in shutouts. Tied for third most in MLS history. Second in the league in goals against average. Second in the league save percentage. Very much a risk in his career. See, trying to trim down Eddie Johnson between both center backs. Jack from away by Johnson. Timbers will elect to push here. This is wrong. Nagby Colton is into the stands. That was center back footy. Johnson running in. Flag down. Hurtado does very well to body him off and clear it wide. Scott collides with Wallace to win it. Kaw knocks that out for a throw. Osvaldo Alonso will hand off for Evans. Dempsey making a big run upfield and set inside for Moffitt. A heavy touch, able to recover. Now Leo Gonzalez, World Cup veteran with Costa Rica, serving it in. Kaw uncontested header away. Evans, Moffitt, tackled by Will Johnson. Free kick Seattle. Clint Dempsey has scored his first Seattle goal in his 9th league appearance at regular season finale against LA, then got an assist on Eddie Johnson's capper Wednesday night, finally getting the monkey off his back. And now is lining up to whack this. Dempsey through the wall and just over. Ricketts did not get a touch, a goal kick.
That's the second time Clint Dempsey's got a hold of this free kick, and the way he just comes across it, you notice that ball goes up and then comes back down.
Took a coat of paint off the crossbar on its way through. Closest Seattle has come yet. Zach Scott, the big header win. Evans helps it on, running at Harrington, who plays safe. Sounders trying to seize the momentum. Evans in for Nagel in the corner. Kaw out there defending. Nagel handing back for Evans and just poked away there. Scott intercepted by Nagby. Jewsbury ahead for Darlington Nagby.
And just at the bottom of your screen, Caleb Porter just to my left is screaming, get wide, get wide. Coming into this match, he wanted to make sure both Rodney Wallace and Darlington Nagby pitched in centrally to combat the numbers up with the diamond formation for Seattle. But the moment they won the ball, they wanted to spread the field immediately. See if they could get that tactical mismatch like they did on the opening goal with Jack Jewsbury out wide on the near side.
Valeri running in behind, trying to get around Alonso. Zach Scott back to cover. It was Will Johnson's ball that set that in motion. Johnson getting his chest in the way of the clearance. Johnson, it's a great header to find Moffat, though it bounces past him. Starter of the last 2 MLS Cups, Adam Moffat. Evans splits the double team, gets it back from Moffat. Numbers showing up in the box now as Brad Evans gets the cross in, header behind, out for another Seattle corner. Evans, who scored the opener against Colorado Wednesday, his first playoff goal since he played for that man, Ziggy Schmidt, in Columbus in 2008. 5-0 the corners in favor of Seattle as Dempsey once again set to take. Driven in again, Chara, a clearing header. Scott rolled ahead, finds Nagel in a pocket of space, has an option outside, electing to come back towards the middle. Evans back for Nagel. Heavy touch poked away by Chara. Ryan Johnson is behind the defense but onside on his own half. Wallace couldn't get the pass away. Now Moffat for Seattle. Johnson mishit it. Still they hold it in though. Kaw this time clearing upfield. Alonso upended. Won the header and sent for a tumble by Ryan Johnson, and he's down. Takes a lot to keep him down, doesn't it, Brian?
He does a great job coming through, and as he gets up, he just comes over the left shoulder of Ryan Johnson. I don't think there's any malicious intent right there from Johnson other than to make it difficult for Ozzie Alonso to win that header. But he has been so good this season, not only defending, but his decisions on the ball, his passing ability.
He's played every minute in the playoffs in Seattle's MLS history. Dempsey driving in the ensuing free kick. Zach Scott knocked it down, and the whistle's gone for a foul. Scott got to be careful there, putting his hands up on the referee, Baldomero Toledo, who we know is not shot to show cards. Scott was sent off twice in the fall.
Well, the number 20, it's pulling and shoving, and right at the last second, where Zach Scott gets caught is that his arm is throwing down in that motion when he's tangled with Jack Jewsbury.
Nagbe picks up the header from Ryan Johnson. Nagbe helps it along for Jewsbury. Valeri. Poked away by Leo Gonzalez. Valeri told us the biggest game of his career. Final day of the 07 Apertura season in Argentina at La Bombonera against Boca Juniors with his team Lanús. That's one of the most fearsome stadiums in the world, so he knows what to expect here as Alonso hacks that away.
I've been very impressed for being new to the playoff party. The Portland Timbers, I just think they believe that they belong here, that they're good enough, that they can beat anybody at this stage of the season.
Alonso fouls Nagbe.
You know, talking to their players yesterday at the team hotel, over and over, it just came down to a belief, a mentality. And if you look back at the final games leading up to the playoffs, it really was a playoff mentality at home. Colorado wins, LA wins, a draw on the road in Vancouver, wins at home against Seattle. They had success against Real Salt Lake's diamond formation. They feel very comfortable coming into this match, and it's shown so far.
Very different fortunes coming into the playoffs. The Timbers unbeaten in their last 8 games. Seattle, just the second team in MLS history to go winless in their final 7 of the regular season and still make the playoffs. Testament, of course, as Ziggy Schmidt points out, to how unbelievably good they were. At 1.8 wins out of 9 as they took first place in the league in September. Chara right to Osvaldo Alonso. And quickly up for Lamar Nagel.
Well, Leo Gonzalez, the outside left back for Seattle, has to figure out a way to deal with the width and not keep getting sucked in central to cover the shoulders of Jimmy Traore and John Kennedy Hurtado. Adam Moffat is getting sucked out wide, and there's a lot of space, which essentially leaves Ozzy Alonso in a 2v1 situation over and over and over.
Gonzalez wants it back from Moffat. Has it now. Johnson. Dempsey. Evans. Zach Scott opening up out wide. Good control on the ball from Evans. The return now for the Sounders captain. Blocked by the Timbers captain. Another Seattle corner kick. Their 6th of the first half. And again, Dempsey taking. I'm sure, Brian, the Sounders would love to have him in the middle, but once again, no Mauro Rosales in the starting lineup, the normal set piece taker when he's available. Dempsey's ball, and this time a better one, and Scott almost got to it. Johnson the touch, finds Moffat. Behind Gonzalez, though. And Osvaldo Alonso, last man back to hold it in. Moffat hooks it in. Johnson couldn't do much with that. Hurtado knocks it down. Johnson gets it away for Jimmy Traore, the center back. Roll ahead for Adam Moffat, who's onside. Moffat's on the floor, cross set behind by Will Johnson. Another Seattle corner.
A great decision from Will Johnson as Footy gets pulled out wide, and he recognizes it just a split second late. He's got to get out to Moffat. Moffat pings the ball across the top of the 6, and Will Johnson recovers, sees the danger, gets in the right spot.
Sounders pounding on the door. Timbers hoping the defenses can hold. Dempsey's in swinger. Headed away by Kopp. Alonso first there. Nagbe trying to put him off it. Can't. Able to force him wide, then fouls him. Here comes another set piece for the Sounders. All the Timbers back to defend this. All but 2 Sounders are upfield. Dempsey drives it into the traffic. Footy got his head there just in front of Traore. Moffat trying to lift it back into the chaos. Headed away by Footy again. Chara knocks it away from Moffat. Now the Timbers are spilling forward on a jailbreak. Chara in a foot race. Marcus Hahnemann way out off his line. Read that well. Moffat got caught as he released that advantage. Sounders are appealing here. They want persistent infringement. They want a card for these fouls. Traore driving it in. Winner at Johnson's follow-up is wide.
A good driven ball from Leo Gonzalez. Little loose marking for the first time from the Portland Timbers back 4. Eddie Johnson just finding that little bit of daylight, that time, that space, just can't keep it on frame.
Johnson from Dempsey, call the defender. Johnson driving towards the byline, trying to keep it in. It's right to Ricketts. Coming up at halftime, Sebastian O'Brien will break down the first half highlights and get you set for tomorrow's MLS Cup playoff matches. All that and more on the MLS Halftime Report, presented by Volkswagen. Booming punt from Ricketts. Hurtado's header falls for Nagbe, able to keep it. Dances away from Moffitt, who's slow to get up behind the plate. Nagbe away from Gonzalez, away from Moffitt, away from Alonso, but tripped up. Free kick Portland.
Darlington Nagbe does such a great job evading pressure and evading that immediate pressure. When that ball is in between his feet, he is so fluid with his movement, so agile, and he's got that little bit of a burst. Great technical touch to get around two defenders, and Ozzie Alonso thinks he's there in time, and Darlington Nagbe just a little bit quicker.
Will Johnson over this ball. Everyone but Dempsey back to defend. Center backs are forward for Portland. Johnson whips it in and over. Will Johnson had his season ended by the Seattle Sounders last year with Real Salt Lake. They came to Seattle, got a scoreless draw. At home, Mario Martinez, 9 minutes from the end, sending the Sounders through to the Western Conference Finals, where they fell to the LA Galaxy. Wage the ball. Alonso sending him backwards. Trying to play across. Dempsey got the foot in. And Will Johnson tripped up by Alonso. No quick whistle. No cards given out. Staying in from Coppins is fouled. Sounders are so quick there. Is the first card. Ronnie Wallace for stopping that quickly taken free. Moffitt knocked away by Will. Gonzalez was headed away by Cott. Nagbe trying to speed. Can't do it. Away by Nagbe. Will Johnson trying to find Ryan Johnson. It gets there in the end. Traore just slowing it up. Michael Harrington is peeled all the way wide to the left. Brad Evans will come to meet him. Rolled up for Wallace. Getting around Scott. Traore there first. And elects to keep it in play. Johnson able to keep it on Shrewsbury. Up ahead now for Nagbe. Or Nagel, rather. Nagel to the byline. Cross takes a deflection. Footy heads away. Evans holds it in. Evans takes a deflection. Another Seattle Sounders corner in the final moments of this first half. One minute extra still on the watch of referee Baldomero Toledo. How much momentum could swing with a late goal here?
Let me get a hold of this.
Dempsey whips it in. Ricketts got just a punch there. Char may have helped it away. Only as far as Dempsey, blocked by Wallace. Alonso nodding it down. Chara takes it away. Now the Timbers pouring forward on the counter. Diego Chara up the middle of the field. Darlington Nagbe with Leo Gonzalez back. Hands off for Wallace. His pass blocked and cleared by Gonzalez. Harrington Pregel. Wallace. Well, Harrington wanted the return. Good pressure by Hurtado prevented it. Valeri. Nagbe. Will Johnson. Shrewsbury bombing forward up the right. Past the 1 minute indicated. Shrewsbury's cross blocked once again by Gonzalez. Shrewsbury takes it towards the center. His left-footed shot is saved by Hahnemann. And that's the end of the half. The Portland Timbers very good coming out of halftime in the regular season. The most goals scored in MLS in the 15 minutes out of the halftime break. But Seattle, the vast majority of their goals in this series with Portland have come in the second half of matches. It's the Sounders in Rave Green, the Timbers in Rose City Red, beginning essentially what is the second quarter of 4 in this 2-game aggregate goal Western Conference semifinal in the MLS Cup playoffs in front of 40,000 here at CenturyLink Field. Brian Tunstead just had a chance to catch up with Sounders coach Ziggy Schmidt. Brian, what did he tell you?
Well, he said the obvious problems was just not staying with the run. He said they got to be better staying with runs in box. He said also we were tucked in a little bit too far on that left-hand side of the fence. Felt like they handled that through their conversations. He said most importantly, offensively, we need to do a better job getting ourselves inside the box, forcing them to make mistakes.
Well, and Schmidt made a big point to us yesterday after the team's practice saying we can't shoot ourselves in the foot. In Seattle's playoff history, they've never won a first leg. They've never even scored a goal in a first leg. Most of the time what it's been is a furious comeback in the second leg that's fallen just short. The exception, of course, last year against Salt Lake, going down and getting a 1-0 win as Clint Dempsey trying to open up space for a shot. Both Johnson and Chara on top of him. Now Evans. Out wide for Scott. And just lost the handle, out for a Portland throw. Scott wins the header over Wallace. Johnson able to clear it. Scott quickly back in. Harrington got his head in the way. Alonso. Dempsey, the flick, Nagel, the return, poked away by Chara, not cleared. Shrewsbury and Moffat in a real collision there, and Adam Moffat got the worst of it. He's slow to get up. Nagby quickly forward, too far in front of Will Johnson. Valeri first there to the loose ball, and he's fouled. And Valeri staying down. Yellow card coming out. Lamar Nagel will be suspended now for the second leg in Portland on Thursday, after being yellow carded Wednesday against Colorado. So already a big loss for the Sounders. Try to chase it down in the second leg.
Well, Valeri comes back inside and he gets the touch. And Lamar Nagel, it's not malicious, but the way he comes in and he raises the boot, and the bottom of the studs are exposed, you cannot blame the referee, Baldomero Toledo, for going to the pocket. He set the tone early in this match, and he's doing it. For Lamar Nagel, he's back pressing. He's trying to get a toe poke to the ball. But the moment he raises the bottom of his studs and exposes, going to put yourself in the situation where the referee gets to make a decision.
Johnson trying to hold up on Kaw. Had a high boot there. Whistle goes. Free kick Seattle. Pamodu Kaw, who the Timbers picked up after season-ending injuries to Mikel Silvestre and to David Horst. Really took a flyer on him off of a trial, and he has been a rock for them at the back as Clint Dempsey sets up over this ball. Heavy artillery forward for Seattle. Dempsey drives it in, and Johnson's header is wide.
Well, Seattle doing a very good job picking players, and right there, Pamodu Kaw just loses Eddie Johnson. The difficulty in your individual marking is when there's just a lot of bodies around, and if you don't stay on the goal side and stay in front of your run, you're going to give an opportunity for a guy like Eddie Johnson to utilize his strength, his athleticism, and that pace just to get that little bit of a burst to get the angle and get the jump.
Big header there by Leo Gonzalez to knock it in the middle. Brad Evans picking it up for Seattle. Moffat. Johnson, Alonso takes what's given to him, finds Dempsey. Evans on the ball. Gonzalez making the run out wide. Dangerous pass there. Alonso just got it away from Ryan Johnson. And And then an errant ball from him for Zach Scott. Although Scott putting his hand up saying that was my fault. Harrington's ball looked like it came off Zach Scott. And a late reaction here by the officials to make the call. Johnson is keeping that ball in play. Kaw hacks it out. Wallace steals in from behind of Scott to keep it in play, but came from an offside position. Johnson wins the header. Nagel picks it up. Moffitt. The return for Nagel. Jewsbury the defender. Good tackle, Jack Jewsbury out for a Sounders throw. Moffitt time and space. Gives it to Leo Gonzalez. Nagel turns to face. Poked away by Jewsbury. Now Valeri doesn't have much help upfield. Going to play for Ryan Johnson to chase Hurtado. Last man back. He's able to handle it. Another errant pass by Seattle, though, for Zach Scott, out for a Portland throw. Hurtado wins the header. Johnson and Kaw battling. Harassed by Will Johnson. Scott keeps it in play. Dempsey on the run. Finds Moffitt. Heavy touch. Chara and Nagbe to combine to take the ball away. Now Nagbe running. Good tackle, Osvaldo Alonso. Now, Brian, that was one of the big things Ziggy Schmidt stressed to us. They didn't want Darlington Nagbe to be running with the ball. They want to force him to pass.
That's a great read defensively and great athleticism in the tackle right there from Osvaldo Alonso. I think he's been very, very good dealing with runners coming at him at speed, making the right decisions. For Seattle, they just got to find the feet of Clint Dempsey. He is searching out the ball, and he's trying to look for these short little combination plays. And a couple of the players on the Seattle Sounders in the midfield just aren't seeing it. They're electing to go wide and release and alleviate the pressure as opposed to a
Gonzalez
look to just play quickly.
Lifting it in there. Harrington heads away. Dempsey was fouled. The referee played advantage. Nagbe then is fouled. And no advantage that time. Now Clint Dempsey really had this system designed for him in a lot of ways. That was Eddie Johnson yesterday. The Diamond gets Clint on the ball. He starts everything for us as Scott wins the header over Wallace.
Well, and I think we're quick to label and name formations. That's what we do as fans and as media. But really, it's all about a framework. It's about an idea for Seattle to allow Ziggy Schmidt to get the most athletic, the most dangerous players into the attack. And again, the question mark for me is now as we enter the third game of this diamond formation for Seattle, they were so used to playing with wide players. How do they deal with things when the chips are down and they start to lose possession? How can they keep their shape and still be very dangerous going forward?
Sounders create the turnover in the middle. Moffitt puts it behind Johnson, though. Diego Valeri. Diego Chara just got that pass away for Nagbe. Nagbe lifting it in for Ryan Johnson, trying to split the center backs. Put off it by Scott. Real collision there. You see Johnson throw his hands up. Hahnemann grabs the ball. Timbers Army up in that corner howling. Baldomero Toledo says play on. Dempsey on the turn. Eddie Johnson making the run. And looks to hand back for Alonso. Now Leo Gonzalez. Alonso met by Valeri. Alonso gets around Valeri. Johnson. Chara happy to sit off of him.
Well, look at the white shirts. Look at how deep. Look at the way they're trying to keep the game in front of them.
Evans pass all the way through to Ricketts.
Well, a dangerous decision from the outside right back, Zach Scott. And as he gets underneath, he's in front of Ryan Johnson. It's shoulder to shoulder, but you take a huge risk because you're allowing the referee to make a decision.
Did he make the right one?
I think a no call is the right call, but at the same time, you have to be very, very aware of an outside back tucking in. You are that last man in that teeter-totter balance. And as he tucks in and he gets underneath the size and strength of Ryan Johnson, he gets away with it. But again, very, very dangerous.
That header in play, just barely. Almost found Dempsey on the inside, cleaned up by Palmo Ducap. Valeri sliding in to poke it away. Alonso takes it back. Johnson helps it on for Dempsey. Harrington was there first. Will Johnson scrambling across. Miss hit by Kaw. Sounders throw. Johnson poked away from behind by Char. Sounders wanted a foul they don't get. Four goals in 5 games these last 2 years against Portland. Eddie Johnson, he's been excellent against the Sounders' biggest rivals. Caught that time a sure hit right to Dempsey, though. Will Johnson first to react. Chara with Nagel chasing him down. And a heavy touch knocked away by Leo Gonzalez. Shrewsbury plays direct. Hurtado last man back. Nagel, fantastic work to confine the play. That's Moffat out there. Alonso for Evans. Evans teeing it up and pulling it wide.
Well, Brad Evans always does a very good job of finding these spots just outside the top of the 18-yard box. And Diego Chara just in the right spot, and it just forces Brad Evans at that last second to readjust his shot from distance, unable to keep it on frame.
Ryan Johnson wins the header. Wallace is chasing it, and Scott just gets that ball back to Hahnemann. Traore being pressured there. Timbers pressing high up the field, able to get it away for Alonso. He finds Evans. Now Scott, they break the press. Johnson's header behind the target. Alonso first there. Dempsey calling for it in the center. Instead, Eddie Johnson out wide. Evans the overlap. Inside for Dempsey on the turn. And it's a good step up in the end. Footy will carry forward now. Timbers trying to calm things down. It pings around and finds Wallace. Now Harrington. Valeri driving on, although Johnson came to him. Scott takes it away from Wallace. Now looking for Eddie Johnson perhaps to... Instead plays him short. Dempsey gets it back. Moffat this time charging upfield. Takes the ball out wide. First time cross away by Will Johnson. Valeri just with Ryan Johnson in front of him. Zach Scott was very slow behind the play to push up and create the line. Valeri tried to dribble his way past John Kennedy Hurtado, who was having nothing of it. Look at how stretched the game is now from one end to the other. Evans back for Eddie Johnson. Dempsey. Moffitt. Nagel holding it up. Nagel's shot takes the block. And bounces out for a Seattle throw. Quickly back in. Nagel. Bit of a high bounce for him, trying to keep it in play, and it's out for a goal kick. And Brian Dunston just in front of you. The Timbers about to make their first substitution just past the hour mark.
Now, Khalif Al-Hassan set to come in, and he gives you instant energy, great speed, technical ability. And for Khalif Al-Hassan, when he steps into the field, he's want to get isolated. And really not a surprise that we're seeing Diego Valeri's number called, dealing with an adductor injury. They're trying to minimize the amount of minutes he's playing with the injury on artificial surface with the short turnaround time Thursday night at home.
Well, on comes Khalif Al-Hassan. 23 Ghana joined the team to MLS. Only goal of the game. The Timbers 1-0 win over Seattle at home last month. And Zach Scott is once again down. Now, we saw him require treatment for an apparent injury of some type in that first half. He continued on, and he was slow joining the play a moment ago. And Scott, who was starting for DeAndre Yedlin, their leader in minutes this year, his ankle Wednesday night, trying to get him to go with a late fitness test, couldn't. Well, not a bad sub to make here, Brian. Here comes Mauro Rosales in his 3 years with Seattle. Tied for the Sounders career assistly with Freddie Montero, the since departed Freddie Montero. And this is going to require some moving puzzle pieces around, it looks like.
Well, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't have been surprised to see this change anyway. I think for Brad Evans, being able to have him as an outside right back and have his ability to get forward, he's proven that he can do it at the international level. Very easy for him to do it with the Sounders. And now you bring in Mauro Rosales. You give him just under 30 minutes, that incredible influence. But you're going to see a lot of shuffling around because now Lamar Nagel is coming to a wide right position. Mauro Rosales will sit in front of Ozzie Alonso, Adam Moffitt over on the left, and Clint Dempsey will pair up top alongside Eddie Johnson.
Johnson trying to flick for Nagbe, does just get there in front of Alonso and caught Alonso as well. Osvaldo Alonso staying down. Diego Chara. Out wide, there's Al-Hassan's first touch. Running at Leo Gonzalez. Al-Hassan cuts inside. Chara. That's a good bombing run forward by Juice for his first time cross. Al-Hassan scuffed at it. Hardeman bobbles, but able to cover up just in front of Wallace. Sounders quickly forward. With that new position, losing out to Will Johnson. Brian, the Timbers insisted to us that they have to keep pressing. They have to keep chasing the next goal, play the same way they always do, even when they're up. Are we seeing them do that?
I think we are. And it looks a little bit different just because of the formation and the way they only play Ryan Johnson up top. But remember, this is a team that is used to grinding out results as of late.
Here we go. It was Hurtado and Ryan Johnson. There you saw Toledo sprint over just in case that bubbled up. In the end, nothing comes of it. That was, again, something both coaches stressed, keeping emotions in check, particularly after that game in Portland last month. Sigi Schmidt telling us we have to know when to walk away as Johnson off the chest, poked away by Chara, and Footy clears to midfield.
And John, forget about the diamond formation for Seattle. It doesn't exist anymore. Look at the bottom of your screen.
Rosales fouled.
Lamar Nagel is playing as wide as possible. Adam Moffitt, that's not going to be necessarily a comfortable position for him out on that left-hand side of midfield. He's going to tuck in instinctively a little bit more, but it should free up Leo Gonzalez just to start to get in the attack a little bit more than what we've seen so far.
And again, here's the effect of the sub. Mauro Rosales to take the free kick. Out Dempsey to join up in the 18-yard box. He's the one all the way on the near side, now curling towards the center. Rosales whips this ball in. Header knocked down. Dempsey got just a whisper of a touch. Nagel first to react, try to turn, goes down. Fans howl. Goal kick.
Well, as that ball gets into space, Michael Harrington immediately looks to close down, and I don't see a foul. I see contact. I just don't see a foul right for Lamar Nagel to earn a set piece.
Bill knows this rivalry as well as anyone else. Grew up in the South Seattle suburbs, was a ball boy for the A-League Seattle Sounders in the 90s and early 2000s as Chara takes that ball away. Alassane dumped to the turf. Wallace skips away from Nagel. Now Nagbe. Will Johnson. Alassane calling for it all the way on the right. Jewsbury will come forward on the overlap. Alassane takes the space inside. Plays it in. Nagbe in the turn. Nagbe has scored! His first ever goal against the Seattle Sounders has made it 2-0 Portland.
Well, the possession on the left-hand side starts, and the buildup just continues. And that teeter-totter effect over to the right-hand side, Khalif Alassane finally, who started the play on the left-hand side. He gets a hard run across the top of the 18-yard box, and that first touch takes him away from the defender. And a great finish from Nagbe to make it 2-0, 66 minutes in.
Well, that's his message to the 38,500 here. Career high 9 goals in the regular season. Had never scored and never had an assist against the Timbers' biggest rivals. That's an awfully good time to start. And now the Timbers have doubled that advantage despite the huge edge in possession for Seattle. Rosales, hard challenge by Kaw. And it's going to be a corner kick for Seattle, their 9th of this match. Everybody coming forward. 3 of the 4 defenders now with Evans up. Rosales sends it in. Bobbled down. It's Traore trying to get a shot away, and it was right to Ricketts. Major League Soccer on the NBC Sports Network is being brought to you tonight by AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible.
Well, just to my left-hand side, Caleb Porter has his hands out and he's screaming to his attacking players, keep your lines, keep your shape. It's going to be interesting to see how the Seattle Sounders approach this final 20 minutes. Down 2-0 at home, historically haven't had success in playoffs. Will they go for it and leave themselves open for Portland to punish them?
Rosales short for Evans. His cross. Ricketts scrambling. The header takes a deflection. It's going to be out for a corner. Jewsbury. How much he knew about it, we're not sure, but he got enough of it. 10th corner kick of the match for the Sounders.
Well, Brad Evans, good whipped-in ball just at the back 6. And as you said, Jackson Jewsbury just does enough. Didn't really know much about where the marks were.
Rosales to swing it in this time. Again, Ricketts scrambling. Dempsey got a touch, but it's knocked. Header looping back in, and Ricketts has the catch. Now, as you mentioned, Brian, it's 20 minutes, but it's also not. They've still got the other 90 minutes Thursday night. Still a long time to go, but it is that balance, as you were saying, of chasing it down, getting what you can at home, while at the same time not allowing it to get worse. That was Ziggy Schmidt's biggest fear, he told us yesterday, as Hurtado heads back to Hahnemann. We can't shoot ourselves in the foot in this first leg. Johnson, long way. Now Nagel. Nagel, driven cross, takes a deflection off Kaw. Dempsey picks it up on the far side. Dempsey engaging with Jewsbury. Alonso. Nowhere to go. Hurtado scrambling there, knocked down by Wallace. Able to get it back.
Well, John, you go back to that substitution of Diego Valeri coming off and Khalif Al-Hassan coming on in the 60th minute, and it took just 6 minutes for that freedom of Darlington Nagbe in that Valeri role to find the time, find the space, and make his decision in possession to start from the left and have the freedom to make that 60-yard run back across the top of the 18-yard box.
Dempsey, Rosales poked to midfield. Ben Zemanski, more of a defensive-minded player, getting set to come on down below. We understand Darlington Nagbe will be making way. There he is there. Played for Caleb Porter at Akron. Brought him in the offseason from Chivas USA. Footy winning the header. Chara takes a few touches off his head. He had Nagbe making a run to play it. Will Johnson across for Harrington. Poked away by Nagel. Harrington trying to recover. They go shoulder. Rosales will control. Rosales for Johnson. Thinking about it perhaps. Elects to go wide for Moffitt. Pulls him towards the corner. Moffitt's cross. Away by Footy. Out. And here comes the substitute. Ben Zemanski, one Akron zip for Darlington Nagbe, another. Nagbe the scorer of the Timbers' second goal tonight. And the same kind of question we had with Seattle. How will the puzzle pieces move around here with this move? Second sub of the game for Portland.
Well, I think reactionary substitution to both the Mauro substitution on the Seattle Sounders and also the 2-0 lead for the Portland Timbers on the road. There's no doubt you lose the creativity of both Valeri and Nagbe, but with Ben Zemanski, he will sit in. You will add another piece in the midfield alongside Will Johnson and Diego Chara. And he's going to look to solidify the central part of that.
Not for the first time tonight, a defensive clearing header for the smallest man on the field. And it's back for John Kennedy Hurtado. Lifting it towards Moffitt. Wins the header inside. Chara there just in front of Rosales. Shrewsbury, work to do. Pings out. Throw in for Portland. Fans in the corner don't like it. Jack Shrewsbury in 2004 was part of the Kansas City team. Got to MLS Cup, though he said, I don't remember any of it. I figure I didn't take advantage and stay in the memories. His last playoff appearance was in 2008 with Kansas. He hasn't been back since. Was really imploring the younger players on this team to make the most of this opportunity because he said you never know when you're going to get it again. Whistle going there for a foul and a free kick for Seattle. Cross for Evans. Battling with Wallace. Evans able to keep it. It's Zemanski with his first touch who clears it out, but it's going to be a foul. Shari Joseph getting set to come on. Hasn't played since a sprained knee in August. Missing the last 12 games, including Wednesday. Very, very experienced player with the New England Revolution in his career as Evans sends it in. Moffitt helps it on. Hurtado, Traore rather, falls for Nagel in the traffic. Moffitt joining up, the shot is blocked. Dempsey just puts it wide.
Well, Seattle doing a great job creating havoc inside the 18-yard box. Helter-skelter defending. Jimmy Traore cuts that ball back, and the initial touch just skips away, somehow bounces to Clint Dempsey, and he misses by inches. Catches that ball so well, just can't keep it on the inside of that near post.
Into the final 15 minutes of this first leg out of 2 games. As Shari Joseph comes to the 4th official's position. He'll be replacing Adam Moffitt, we understand. Moffitt, who was brought to this team in some part because They knew Shalrie Joseph was injured, needed another insurance policy in the center as Chard just reacting there to what looked to be Clint Dempsey running onto the intercepted pass. Szymanski splits the double team, tripped up by Alonso. Now here he comes, Shalrie Joseph. 11th MLS season, started 3 straight MLS Cups, 05, 06, and 07 with the New England Revolution. Replacing Adam Moffat, who started 2 MLS Cups of his own the last 2 years with Houston. Second sub of the game for the Sounders.
Well, it's times like this is the exact reason why you bring a guy like Shalrie Joseph. Utilize his experience in big games.
Wallace trying to get the cross away. Does Johnson trying for the sensational.
Well, the initial adjustment is Lamar Nagel's gone to the left-hand side. Mauro Rosales over to the right-hand side. Shalrie Joseph in front of Osvaldo.
Dempsey running on. That's Nagel out there. Nagel's cross knocked down by Footy. Alisson, the only man there, at least for the moment.
Well, Seattle's going to sacrifice some defensive shape to give them something going forward.
Rosales sends it in again. Footy is there. How important is it for Seattle, even if it ostensibly comes in a loss, to be 2-1 going to Portland instead of 2-0?
It's huge on so many different levels, but I think most importantly, it gives you the psychological advantage of going into that second leg knowing that you can get yourself back into it. Going down 2-0, it becomes a little bit difficult mentally to deal with, tactically to approach. You never know what can happen. One split-second decision can change everything. But Shalrie Joseph, I think people forget, he was very good in stretches of the season for Seattle when he was in the midfield alongside Osvaldo Alonso.
It's a flick on from Nagel. Szymanski's header goes backwards, and Jewsbury clears up field. Traore with Wallace chasing it down, gets it to Hahnemann. Joseph harassed, dispossessed. Timbers in no rush. We'll see if Barlamar Toledo starts to take notice of that, as Wallace can't do anything with the throw. Joseph last out, back to Portland. Again, on paper, there should be advantage to Caleb Porter's team as the #1 seed in the Western Conference. However, in the last 10 years in MLS, the #1 seed in the West 4 times has gone to MLS Cup, 5 times has lost in this round, the conference semifinal. Compare that to Seattle's position as the 4th seed. 3 out of the last 4 MLS champions have been 4th or worst in the Western Conference. Alisson trying to wriggle away from Leo Gonzalez, goes down, and a free kick upcoming for Portland. Point being, the old cliche about throughout the record books when you get to the playoffs, and for that matter when it's a rivalry game, very true in MLS.
Well, the difficulty for the Seattle Sounders is that quick turnaround time coming off that 2-0 win at home in the playing game against Colorado. These final 20 minutes chasing the game down 2-0 at home. Very, very difficult. Some heavy legs on the field for Seattle.
Timbers are committing both center backs at field for this. Will Johnson's over it. Johnson swung in ball, knocked down in the traffic. Half-hearted appeals for handball ignored by the referee. Dempsey chasing. Szymanski able to overhead it back upfield. Helped on by Kaw, just gives Portland enough time to get back and try to get set. Evans, a little hesitation move to get away from Ronnie Wallace. Rosales knocked away by Harrington. Shalrie Joseph first there. Alonso. Joseph battling. Will Johnson gets it clear.
In Portland, with that adjustment, adding an extra body with Szymanski, it affords them the opportunity to start swarming and back pressing anytime Seattle's in possession.
Eddie Johnson trying to keep that in play. Can't do anything with it. He really felt they had continued momentum very well. on Wednesday night, that win over Colorado. Told us the big key is to play to the 0 at home, give ourselves a better chance going down there for the second leg. As you see Jose Valencia perhaps getting set to come on for the final few minutes here. Gonzalez playing it forward. Ka off the chest and able to scramble it away. And Valencia now getting final instructions down below. Evans thought he was fouled. Indeed he was. Sounders go quick. Rosales fouled as well. Sounders, will they go quick again or will they commit the bodies forward? They're going to bring the bodies forward this time, and Rosales will set it up. Fans to their feet here at CenturyLink Field, 38,500 of them. Rosales, a big run up, drives it in, header back to the top of the box. Dempsey picks it up, forced back to Alonso. Rosales just kept it in play, intercepted by Wallace. Now could the Timbers break? They got Ryan Johnson making a run up the middle. The pass from Alassane. Alonso tracking back. Johnson cuts around. Ryan Johnson, it takes a deflection and it goes wide and out for a corner. That's Ryan Johnson's last action of the game.
Well, again, Khalifa Alassane, perfectly weighted ball in between, and Ozzie Alonso in a recovery mode. Ryan Johnson chops that ball back to his less preferred right foot. Gets that shot off. And again, Portland looking to hit on the counter. Seattle taking risks. Fortunately for them, they weren't punished.
Leo Gonzalez got the block. He was limping at the end of it. Ryan Johnson scored the opening goal of the game back in the 15th minute. And coming off here for the 21-year-old Jose Valencia, El Trencito, the little train. The big train was his dad, Adolfo Valencia, who amongst other things on his resume, played in the MLS playoffs and is the New York, New Jersey Metro Stars / New York Red Bulls all-time playoff leading scorer. Here's the ensuing corner kick. First of the game for Portland. Joseph with the header. Rosales takes a real blow as he gets it away. And Ben Szymanski will go in the book. Well, the Timbers just made their third and final substitution. The Sounders will follow quickly along. Mark Birch, the veteran MLS defender, we've seen him plenty at midfield this year, will be coming on, and Leo Gonzalez, the number that's up, he's actually going to go off on the side, as we saw him limping a little bit there after the block shot.
Well, it'll be like for like, but as you said, Birch a little bit higher. People forget when Mark Birch came in the league for the LA Galaxy, he was a striker. DC United kind of pulled him back to that left-hand side, but Mark Birch has an unbelievable cannon for a left foot.
Also had a career high with assists this year for Seattle as Cobb backpedaling heads it away. Eddie Johnson first there. Alonso. Johnson directing him to go wide left. Instead goes wide right for Brad Evans. Evans gets the cross away. Will Johnson, or that was Szymanski, the only man there. Johnson who clears to midfield. There's Birch's first touch. Not the best one. Wallace leaping out of the way. Traore, well, advantage played as Szymanski comes upfield. And Toledo saying the follow-up tackle by Joseph got the ball. Rosales battling hard since coming on. Getting a bit ragged out there now with the physical play. Dempsey back for Alonso. Back for Dempsey. Nagel making the run. Nagel has it now. Nagel back for Dempsey. Poked away by Szymanski. Alonso. Going out wide for Rosales. Harrington comes to meet him. Rosales being forced backwards. Goes nutmeg on Harrington. Free kick Seattle.
Well, you got him facing the way you want him. Mauro Rosales away from goal. The Portland Timbers committing a lot of unnecessary fouls in wide parts of the play. And it's just allowing Seattle opportunities to pump the ball into the box and create goal-scoring opportunities.
Can the Sounders take advantage in these final 5 minutes? That man will try. Mauro Rosales. Rises in, stays at home. The header from Joseph goes the wrong way. Evans was trying to flick it back into the traffic. Alonso off the chest. Back out wide for Rosales. Time and space to whip in another ball. He does so. The header is well wide. And it's actually last off Portland. Out for a Seattle corner kick. Their 11th of the match. Rosales, the outswinger, the header, man, and it's just tipped over by Ricketts. Did he get a touch? That's what Seattle's saying. Referee has signaled for a goal kick, that it clipped off the crossbar.
And again, Clint Dempsey does everything right in this opportunity. Snap down header, skips off the ground, comes off the crossbar. Looked like it took a touch off of Footy Danzo.
That's certainly what the replay seemed to indicate. What the fans were howling about when they saw it in the stadium.
Now that's the motion that Clint Dempsey was making towards the referee, Baldomero Toledo.
Jar for Al Hassan. Michael Harrington in space. Knocked out by Evans. Referee urging Ronnie Wallace to get this ball back in, not take too much time. And it's last off of Wallace and out. Nicholas Birch making the run, plays him now. Mark Birch from the corner. His first time cross, header away by Codis in front of Rosales. Alonso's follow-up is wide.
Well, we've seen a lot of opportunities from wide play in the second half from Seattle, and Portland's defending has been very, very good. There's spacing between the center backs, Footy and Pa Muduka. Tactically and shape-wise, it's great defending. Great defending from the back four from the Portland Timbers on the road.
That's what the boos are about. That's Footy tying Pa Moduka's shoes. The Great Wall of the Gambia, those two, both born in the smallest country in Africa. Cogro grew up in Norway. And when those two have started together this year, 6 shutouts in 7 matches. Could be 7 and 8 in another few minutes' time as Wallace hooks that over towards Valencia. Got a good hip in on Jimmy Traore, who's down, and a free kick for Seattle. Holloman's long ball. Flicked on by Johnson. Dempsey battling with Footy, who is able to clear it out. And it's going to be a throw down in the corner. 4 minutes, the word from downstairs, the stoppage time. As Rosales says it should be a... Craig Lowry, the assistant down there, holding firm to his call as Evans will fire it in. Evans throw deep into the box, flicked on Alonso! A lifeline for Seattle.
But again, Osvaldo Alonso just finding himself at the top of the 18-yard box, and he's unmarked. Slowly makes his way to the top of the penalty spot, gets away from his mark, Alassane, left foot, side volley, and as Donovan Ricketts is coming back across to his right, nothing he can do about it. Important goal for the Seattle Sounders.
Now we say throughout the record books, the Sounders the second fewest late goals in MLS this year. Alonso says nuts to that. His second playoff goal. He didn't score in the regular season, Osvaldo Alonso. How big is that? Now can they chase a second? Flicked on by Dempsey. Eddie Johnson turns. Eddie Johnson faces. Eddie Johnson drives on. That ball go out. Timbers are saying it did. It did not, though, says the linesman. Johnson battling to keep it, and it's out for a Seattle throw. 4 minutes of stoppage time. We've played one. Johnson getting caught there. You see the hobble. Everybody to their feet at CenturyLink Field. Everybody to this end of the field as the long throw comes in. It was Carr rising up to win the header. Up to the top of the box. Valencia trying to help it away. Brought down by Evans. Clips it in all the way out wide, though. Harrington is there. Doesn't have anyone behind him. And just plays it upfield. Valencia able to stem the immediate tide. Timbers were in cruise control there. One big moment changes it all. Traore plays long. It goes all the way through. Donovan Ricketts, who had 5 shutouts in the final 6 matches of the regular season, beaten 5-hole. Wallace flicks it on halfway through the 4-minute stoppage time. Still 90 big minutes to come in Portland on Thursday. It's going to be one of those funny situations, Brian. The Timbers have the advantage, but you wonder who's feeling best about themselves right now. Will Johnson, first touch of the header from Shari Joseph. Valencia can't get away. Chara holds it in. Al-Hassan on a foot race with Birch. Nagel flicks for Dempsey. Dempsey able to keep it. Back for Lamar Nagel. Nagel driving on, playing through all the way to Ricketts. Now, Brian, what do you think? Given how this match, at least for now, has ended, who feels better going into Thursday night?
Well, I think the Seattle Sounders obviously feel better about themselves pulling one back and giving themselves that lifeline. But I think also going down 2-0, it affords you the opportunity to make offensive-minded substitutions.
Good work by Hurtado there to block the pass from Wallace. As the Timbers are charging forward, Rosales is caught in the middle. Rosales is in some pain. Final 30 seconds at minimum of stoppage time. Marcus Hahnemann will trot forward to take as everybody coming upfield. Hahnemann lofting it into the box. Header flicked on by Johnson. It's away by Kopp. Nagel. Alonso. Birch. Back for Alonso. Alonso lifting it into the box. And all the time, Dempsey's header is right to Ricketts.
Osvaldo Alonso floats this ball to the top of the 6-yard box, and Clint Dempsey does a good job getting up on that back door.
And we've reached halftime of this Western Conference semifinal series. Ziggy Schmidt's team grabbing one in the 90th minute to have the deficit. The Portland Timbers will take a 2-1 advantage back home for Thursday's second leg.